Welcome to Discover Janesville. My name is Yuri Rashkin, and we are guests here today at the Rotary Gardens. This episode was underwritten by Alliant Energy. In October 2009, Janesville City Manager Eric Levitt appointed an ad hoc committee to review the Tallman House conditions report. The committee was charged with preparing a business plan for the Tallman House as well. I'm very pleased to have with me today the chairwoman of the committee, Meredith Helgerson, and Brad Cantrell, Community Development Director for the City of Janesville. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
So, that's quite a challenge, isn't it? To take something, the building that's been around for 150 years and seems like everything's been established and prepared and almost start from scratch and take a look at what the building could be and what the mission of the society and the best use of the facility could be. How did you approach that challenge?
Well, actually, Brad, why don't you start with that as you formed the committee?
Well, the committee was formed, and we selected members of the community that was a cross-section we had city council members on the committee. We had representatives from the Rock County Historical Society board on the committee, and other interested individuals that are interested in historic preservation and interested in promoting Janesville. And their goal was to, first of all, look at the conditions report that was prepared by Ingberg Anderson back in 2008 and determine if those estimates were realistic, and also look at the priorities and come up with a conditions report that the committee felt was appropriate and that they and also the city council could support. In addition, their other goal was to prepare a business plan and a programming plan for the Tallman House. As many people know, house museums across the nation are having very difficult times. Admissions is decreasing, revenue is decreasing, and many museums are closing. This is a house museum that the city has taken ownership of, and it was donated by the Tallman family since
1950.
About 1950. It was given to the city with the condition that it be operated as a historic museum, and that the Rock County Historical Society has been managing that museum for the city of Janesville since that time. And it's an important landmark in Janesville and Rock County and the region, and draws thousands of people to the community. Again, over the last recent years, the admissions have been declining, but the business plan proposes new ways of bringing people to the museum, to the home, to the grounds, and I think that Meredith can kind of talk about some of those aspects that the committee has been recommending that we start exploring and opening up the home for more venues than it was in the past. We want the house to be more of a community venue and to be used by the community, and because it is a symbol for Janesville. We think it's a very important symbol, and historic preservation is very important for the community.
I think just to touch on the committee, I think the fact that such a wide cross-section of the population is represented and so many people that are so involved in the community just speaks to the importance that Tallman House plays in Janesville's history and cultural.
And as the chair of the committee, I relied heavily on people who had a lot more history here in Janesville than myself. I've only lived here for 6 years. But I relied on former city engineers and people in the building trades to help me understand physically what condition is the property in, and then with the interest in the community as a whole, where can we go to make this, what direction can we go to make this property more relevant to the community at large and Rock County, Northern Illinois?
Sure, because the building, so much of it is about architecture and about how it was built. It's not just about how it can be used, but it's also how it was built. because 150 years ago when it was first built, it was the best of everything at the time.
And there were some very extraordinary details that were taken when building the property. I think one of the details that I remembered that I was most impressed by were the exterior bricks, which are very unique. Their size is very unique, but then I believe that they were also built in. The bricks themselves are structural. Today, when you see bricks on the exterior of a building, they're not necessarily structural.
And also, one interesting fact is that it has the original roof. The roof was put on the home in 1857 when it was originally constructed, and the architect was amazed that that has stood the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we need a new roof. That's one of the major costs.
But we also have a very high standard to match, because the first roof lasted for 150 years.
We have a very high standard, but we think that when Mr. Tallman built the home, he did it right. And I think that that's why, even with the maintenance level, or the lack of maintenance that has taken place over the last couple decades, the home is still in very good structural condition. But it needs a new roof, it needs tuck pointing, it needs a restoration of the woodwork on the exterior. It needs some repair, and that's what this committee has been advocating, and also they're going to be reaching out to the community for community support in making these improvements.
Well, and I think one of the things mentioned in the plan is to have a scheduled maintenance so that things can be taken care of on a continuous basis versus looking at this and going, oh my goodness, we have to do something about this now.
It was one of the recommendations of the committee that that does need to be developed. Something as simple as keeping your exterior windows from paint peeling as well as the wood rotting away is something that can be prevented very easily. But because maintenance has not been done on the exterior windows, the storm windows, if you will, the wood is not in good condition, the paint is peeling away, and it's now become a pricey fix rather than a regular maintained item on the house.
Well, and I would think it would be just exciting to imagine and to then actually see what the building will look like once it's brought back to its more or less original glory.
What I learned is that it's called Janesville's Jewel, and it doesn't really look like a jewel on the exterior right now.
Well, some jewels need to be repolished. And
Yes, yes.
It's interesting. Of course, one of the things that Tallman House is so well known for is the fact that Lincoln stayed there, but that was 2 nights 150 years ago. And in the meantime, the second part of the committee's objective was to put together a business plan, because how do you market this building and everything that it has to offer to new people so that more people would want to come, not just once to see the place where Lincoln slept, but keep on coming back. And I can only imagine that must be a huge challenge, because you're trying to balance something that has such historical significance with so much of the furniture being original furniture and so much of the house being original, and yet trying to find a way to bring new people in so they can use the space. How do you strike that balance?
What we worked on was thinking of the entire area as a campus, that the Lincoln Tallman House is not this isolated building that has nothing to do with anything around it. The grounds are beautiful and they're large. So one of the first ideas we started thinking about was how can we use the exterior of the building for larger events that could generate revenue but are not going to in any way diminish the interior of the home or put any of the artifacts in risk. So we've talked about renting out the space and allowing for a larger wedding, which is, I then have to talk about the carriage house and the repairs that are needed for the carriage house, because the basis of having an effective outdoor event on the grounds involves having adequate bathroom facilities for a larger group, as well as having some sort of preparatory area for caterers coming in. If you're going to have an event for 200 people, you're going to want food, so your caterer needs to have some place to work. And we're not talking about a catering kitchen, because those are very expensive, but they're not necessary for doing an outdoor event.